4 o'clock, so we will call our board committee meeting of Finance and Facilities to order. Thank you all for being here. We have had a transition in leadership since we last met, but I think you all know Dr. Michael Schumacher and Dr. David Stubblefield, but we're going to kick off this meeting and have both of our two new fearless leaders introduce themselves again to the group, and then let's go around and just do another quick round of introductions before we get going. Is that good?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So we doing introductions first or me?
You want to kick us off?
Perfect. So Mike Schumacher serves as the superintendent, proud superintendent in Shawnee Mission. It's an amazing opportunity. We have had a great start in the Shawnee Mission School District. We would be remiss if we didn't recognize that we did have a tremendous loss in our community as well. In the Northwest, and we're dealing with that. It's awful. There's just no other way around that. So anyway, besides that, great start to the school year. We are all in. I'm sure you guys are seeing that on social media and everywhere else that we can brand. And really, it's really kind of catching fire. I don't know if you would agree, Dr. Stubblefield, but
yes, I agree.
We're feeling it catching fire. In addition to that, one of the things that we're challenging our staff with is this idea of being ridiculously positive every day, and I've been challenged with that myself with a broken leg. But that idea that we can impact how people around us feel by being ridiculously positive. So as leaders, we're choosing that, and we've had some opportunities to put that into practice lately. So great start. This is really Dr. Stubblefield's committee, and so I'm going to throw it to him and let him introduce himself as well.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Schumacher. David Stubblefield, Deputy Superintendent, still getting used to saying that, but that transition has been amazing. Had a really great opportunity to have some transition time with Dr. Joe Gilhouse prior to his retirement, and I couldn't, have thanked him enough for all the things that he transitioned with me, and again, all the new learning that I'm getting to experience here in these first few months and first few weeks of school. So excited to be a part of this committee. Excited to work with you all. We've got some absolutely amazing people here that's going to do some outstanding work, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you very much.
Welcome, and welcome to us. No. Sorry. We're just doing some quick introductions here. And so let's go loop around one more time. Let's kind of finish the loop around. Let's put kind of some new faces to the group, and then we'll jump into the agenda. Mr. Knapp.
Mr. Knapp, Russell Knapp, I'm the CFO, been starting my 26th school year.
And we just approved the budget.
And we just approved the budget
So
Monday night.
It's a little budget approval. Thank you for all that.
Mm-hmm.
I am Tyler Clubb, Director of Facilities. I do not have 26 years of service, but we are starting our 10th year.
David Sims, financial advisor by day job, but two girls, ninth grade at Shawnee Mission North, a fifth grade at Crestview Elementary. My wife also works at Crestview as a pre-K aide. That's it.
Volunteer for a few things on top of this.
Yeah, active in my church, and then I'm the Johnson County Library Board member as well, so I think that's mostly it, not all.
Thank you. I'm Angela Ganser, representing the Northwest area. I have a 7th grader and a 9th grader, so that's been a lot of fun this year. I just want to thank the district for their support this last couple weeks. It has been a very difficult time, and it's just been great to see the district come together and offer the support and the love. It's been felt throughout the Northwest area. So thank you all for that.
Gary Strout. I've been part of this group since it started. How many years now? Well, 2 or 3 years, I think we've been going. So I represent the South area, and this is my 18th year in the school district. I started off teaching kindergarten and first grade at Broken Arrow, and I eventually became a library media specialist, and I'm the library media specialist at Prairie Elementary School. And so I've seen a lot of the great things we've done in this committee, and I'm really excited to continue the work that we've done.
And I'm guessing Jessica probably got hung up at work, and so should, I would imagine, be here shortly. I am Mary Sinclair, so I serve as the chair of this committee and board president, and have been a parent and alumni and all that in the Shawnee Mission community for a while, and I'm sorry for the loss in the Northwest community. It's no words for that, right? And we'll let Jessica introduce herself when we get all the way around.
So, good afternoon. My name is Melissa Rooker. I currently serve as the executive director at the Kansas Children's Cabinet and Trust Fund, which focuses the state share of the master tobacco settlement on early childhood programs. Dr. Schumacher, our 5-year strategic plan for early childhood in Kansas is known as All In for Kansas Kids. So we appreciate the synergy there, and Leanne does a great job of staying connected in our world of work and does great things for the district. I too am a original member of this Facilities and Finance Committee. Prior to my current position, I served 3 terms in the Kansas House of Representatives representing the northeast corner of Johnson County. So, and my household, all 4 of us in the family are graduates of Shawnee Mission East, or in the district, so definitely have deep roots in the community and care a great deal about the quality and effectiveness of this district as a whole.
Susan Lindahl, and I'm also an original member of the committee, and I always tell Russ I feel his pain. I'm a retired CFO. I was at Baker University for many years and taught finance, so I can feel his pain as he goes through this. But I have, my husband's a Shawnee Mission West graduate and 2 children who graduated from Shawnee Mission South and launched well. We're so pleased, and 4 grandchildren, 2 are in the Shawnee Mission School District, so a keen interest as well. And a great deal of pride as being part of the district. And, again, when one of us hurts, we all hurt. So know that we're all thinking about you all too. So, yeah. But anyway, next, Brian.
I'm Brian Watson. I was a 43-year-old first-year 6th grade teacher in Shawnee Mission back in 2005. And I spent 15 years in Shawnee Mission as a teacher, and 10 as a teacher and 5 as a principal at Tomahawk Elementary School. Before that, I was in banking and finance and a bunch of other things. So now I'm in my 3rd career. I'm a travel advisor, luxury travel advisor in my own business here in Kansas City. So I don't know if this is considered my 3rd tour or 2nd tour, but anyway, I'm glad to be part of the committee and glad to be watching Tyler build things rather than scavenge things with me, because we scavenged a lot of stuff to get over to Tomahawk from the buildings that were being built there, but just drove by it again. It's impressive. It's an impressive, I want to calculate that whole angle, that big circle, what that is. So very cool, but thank you.
I admire your career life choices. That was kind of that 3rd one.
3 times. Yeah, to start a travel career in a global pandemic, you'd question my intelligence. Maybe you don't want me on this committee, but actually it was the perfect time to do it because it was slow enough I could learn, and learning is what it's all about. So yeah, for sure. And now, of course, it's crazy. The cork's popped off the bottle for sure.
My name is Angelique Rodriguez-Gunyon. I'm a representative for the Shawnee Mission West area. I have 2 graduates from the Vikings. I have 1 current senior and 4 other kids that will come through the ranks. I've been on this committee as long as Gary. Just love seeing the in and outs of our finances. I sit on the SMEF board and on different things at the high school as like booster football mom since 2010. You name a sport, my kids have done it. And I just love how we have just over the years, and even during the pandemic, just really, in a very smart but aggressive way, always found a way to finance what we needed, and was very open and transparent with this. So, yep.
Sure. Jessica Hembry. I am elected from the South area, but we all as a board serve the whole district. I have 3 kids. One is a freshman at Shawnee Mission South. I'm wearing my South shoes today because we have a football game that I'm going to after this. And then I have one who is a 6th grader at Trailwood and a 2nd grader at Trailwood. In my work life, I spent 11 years at the Health Forward Foundation as their lobbyist and policy director doing healthcare access advocacy. And now I consult on my own with a number of philanthropies throughout Kansas City. And I love it. This is my 2nd term on the board, so my 5th year.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we again have kind of a full agenda, and we wanted to start with a budget update. We had a hearing on Monday where we finalized the budget, and we wanted to start with the two come up. There was a revenue neutral hearing budget, and then the hearing, and then the budget hearing. And so what we thought would be an area of interest, or maybe a question to really dissect a little bit more with this group, is leaning into kind of starting with the revenue neutral hearing and really leaning into the local option budget and how those mill levies work and whatnot. And so I think we'd like to start there and maybe have a conversation about that, and then we can move on. And Russ, if I did not capture that correctly, please feel free to adjust my
you did just
opening
fine.
there.
You did
Okay.
Okay, so as Mary mentioned, we approved our 24-25 budget Monday night. But just to take you back to the beginning, we start this process in November, and we start with the building needs assessment. So our administrative teams, our principals in our buildings all complete this assessment, and it is provided to the administration, and we start working that feedback that we get from our buildings into our budget in January and February. It goes.
And this is from our website, right? So
And
if
this is
people
our
wanted to
website.
link on this now, we could direct you to that link if you want to.
That is correct. So all this lives on our website, and you can go and click on each individual building's assessment. The board reviews it, they provide feedback, and that all goes into the budget that was approved Monday night. And then this is a quick timeline. Before we did approve the budget on Monday, you're required to have a revenue neutral rate hearing and a budget hearing. So the revenue neutral rate hearing, we had 3 people speak, and Melissa came and spoke. Then you do a little resolution, the board approves that. Budget hearing, so folks can speak about the budget. Nobody stood up and spoke at that time. And then we adopted the budget Monday night, and now we're just submitting it to the county and the state. So Mary mentioned that she wanted to get a little bit into the weeds on a revenue neutral rate. And so this is the notice of hearing that we have to publish in the newspaper. So this is what it looked like. So Johnson County calculates the revenue neutral rate for us, and they provide this document to us. So it's 49.035. So what that means is they look at the current assessed valuation, which would be the 2024 calendar year, which is what is used for the 24-25 budget, and they say, what mill rate would you have to levy to generate the same amount of tax from last year? So if you were to look at general fund there, based on the current assessed valuation, a mill levy of 19.877 is what it would take to generate $102,735,000. That is something that I think started with cities, and then it got expanded a couple years later to school districts and other public governments, if I have that right. But so this is something that we do. We have a hearing on it. So the general fund mill levy is required by state law to be 20 mills. So if your assessed valuation goes up, you're going to have a revenue neutral rate that exceeds that. Okay? So they did change. So in the first year they did that, passed that law, everybody pretty much exceeds it if your assessed valuation is going up. And then they tweaked it a little bit that says if it's only your general fund that is causing you to go over the revenue neutral rate, then you're exempt from doing the whole process about having the hearing and approval and all that stuff. The other one is the capital outlay. We have, the max you can levy is 8 mills. We've always have levied 8 mills. We have 60 properties that Tyler's crew has to take care of. We also have an active bond going, and we use those two revenue sources hand in hand to fund all the projects that we got going on and all the day-to-day operations. As Tyler has spoke to this group over the last couple of years, that the cost of everything has just gone up in large increases. And so we would supplement those bond projects with capital dollars. So you can see the revenue neutral rate was 7.569 there. And we levied 8 mills. Your LOB base increased 5.7%, so that mill levy goes up. Your general fund and your supplemental general funds are your major revenue sources for your operating fund. Those are the two sources that run our day-to-day operation, that pays all our salaries and benefits, pays for your student transportation, pays for your utilities, et cetera. So the LOB base is now based off of the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, and that went up 5.7%, so that base went up. So that gives us more authority. I'll go in more detail on the LOB here in a couple more slides. So that goes up. And then your cost of living, again, that's a factor of the school finance formula. So the base goes up, your cost of living goes up, and then also there's the factor that caps out at 7%, but is now based off CPI, so it can go above 7%. However, our factor was 6.57, and now we went up to 6.76. So you got two things there with their cost of living that's going to go up in the school finance formula. The other three pretty much stayed flat. And so Mary mentioned that wanted to go a little bit in more detail on how taxes are calculated. It all starts with Johnson County Assessor's Office. They assess your house, and in this example, we're going to use a $200,000 assessed valuation. So that is supposed to represent your fair market value of your house. If you were to go sell your house, you'd get $200,000 for it. So that's the starting point. And then in Kansas state law, residential is appraised at 11.5%. and commercial is at 25%. So you just multiply your assess to get your appraisal, and you get those in what, March, I think, is the timeline? You get those, your appraisals, and then you get a chance to appeal it, and then the timeline is, it is all finalized in October. So October of '24 is when the county will finalize our assessed valuation. So what we build our budget on, the mill rate and the assessed valuations are estimates, but they're pretty close. They're not going to change a lot, but they're all finalized in October. So you take that.
I'm sorry, can I do interject a thought here as we're going through? And love the graphics, by the way. I'm glad to be on there. One of the conversations I think that Jessica brought up when we were just thinking about the agenda and is when we have our community members receive that tax, that statement, nobody loves property tax, right? So what are those monies going for? So part of what this discussion is, and what I would maybe this group can maybe think about is there something we can do as a community, as a school district, that would help people understand what those taxes are? So is there a way to provide kind of a brief explanation? Let's make sure we as a group understand what they are. But then how can we think about maybe even taking each of those lines, the general, the capital outlay, supplemental, cost of living, special liability? And is there a way that we can provide an annual explanation when there's a hit? We can at least, for those people who ask, and say, well, here's the why. And so part of it is, let's kind of go through and understand, have kind of common understanding of the why. But if that resonates with this group, that's kind of what we were trying to think about, how do we take that to the next step. Okay?
Okay. So a mill rate, the mill represents 1/1,000. So if it's 8 mills is what we're talking about, you just move the decimal 3 places to the left, and you multiply this, in this scenario, 23,000 times 0.008, and it says we're going to collect $184 in taxes just on the capital outlay. So when you get your tax bill or the revenue neutral rate at your house, you're going to see 4 lines for public schools. in Johnson County. At least that's the way the assessor here in Johnson County does it. So you'll see the bond, which is that first line. That represents the mill levy or the revenue that we raise locally to pay off our debt schedule. So we issue bonds, and then we got principals and interest, and that's what that represents.
And just to hammer home the point, that went to a vote in the district, right?
That is correct. So each time that we do a bond sale, we have to have authority from our voters. So that state law requires a 50% or more voter approval, and we did that in 2021 for $264 million.
So that after a vote of the people, that is why it appears on our tax bill.
That is correct.
Can I ask for clarity, because I was thinking about this the other night. When we put those bond questions out, we're talking about total dollars. We want to raise X number of dollars to do this menu of work. We're not asking voters about the minutia of mill rates, right? We're asking permission to levy taxes totaling a dollar amount to pay for the scope of work. Is that correct?
That is correct. When we do the actual ballot question.
And then interest rates and debt service, things that are not my forte, but factor in year over year what the specific mills are to levy the dollars needed to service the bond, right?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay.
But prior to that vote, I would say that we do a good job of campaigning and letting our public know.
Yes.
Based on estimated assessed valuation, here's what our mill rate will be.
And from serving on this committee, we often come in under what we estimated.
Yeah, so when we went out for this campaign for 2021, we said 264 million. We do a conservative amount on the assessed valuation increase because we don't want to be on the wrong side of that. So I think we estimated like a 0.8 mil levy increase, and we end up keeping it flat.
Yep.
And we won't have to increase it. So it's been flat through issuing all the new debt, and so now all our debt has been issued. We got our schedule out for 20 years. We're at 7.4, which you saw where it stayed flat. And that's a good job by David Arterberry, who's our financial advisor with Stiefel, does an excellent job planning that out. So.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to clarify, but we do communicate at the beginning of a bond how much we're planning to raise and through what amount of increase in the mill levy we're expecting it to be.
Yeah,
It's not on the ballot, but we do communicate out.
That's great.
It'll be, okay.
Yeah, and that's presented to the board because you need that information to make that decision.
So you originally communicated that it was going to go up by 0.8 mils, but it never actually did?
That's correct. Yep.
And Russell, I think you'll get to this too, but at the same time, we went out to bond and got approval to levy those mills or to raise that type of money. We also asked about the maximum, the 33% of the LOB at the same time.
We did that in 2015.
2015, okay.
Yep. That's correct. So anyway, that's how you calculate your taxes. Your 20 mills, that's levied to air-free residential house in the state of Kansas. So that's state law. That money is collected locally at your county's treasurer, and the treasurer submits that to the state directly. So that don't flow through a school district anymore.
And this school district, any school district, has zero ability to raise or lower that 20 mill rate. That's in
correct.
statute required by law of every district in the state.
That's correct. The one thing they passed, the legislators passed this spring to give a little bit of tax release. On the general fund only, the first $40,000 of your property value is reduced, and you don't pay taxes on that. They increased that to $75,000 this year, so you would see a little bit of a tax relief in there because so $75,000 comes right off the value of this $200,000 house, right? So $125,000 is only taxed at the 20 mills, but then the $200,000 is taxed at the rest of the mill levy.
And
just to make it more complicated for everybody to understand.
But to clarify, the effect of that difference is savings for the homeowner. It is the state legislature that has to make up the difference out of state general fund dollars. It isn't harming the formulaic amount being distributed to schools.
Yeah, the state uses a three-prong approach. They use property tax, sales tax, and income tax to fund their general operating funds. But yeah, so when they raise it from 40 to 75, that just means there's less money collected at the state level to distribute through the school finance formula. And then you can see this tax bill, there's other, a homeowner would be paying Johnson County Community College, whatever city they lived in. So it's just, it's not always, the school district will just hit, obviously, our boundary. Blue Valley will hit theirs. If you live in the city of Shawnee, you might have a different mill levy than Prairie Village, et cetera. So not all of them are all, they're going to be very close, but not all of them will be reflective of all these line items on your tax bill. Okay?
Russ, so is the only one up there that's unique to Shawnee Mission that like another district like a Mill Valley or a Blue Valley or Olathe wouldn't have? Is it the 512 bond, and the other three are going to be on pretty much every other tax bill?
So if you lived in Olathe, whatever their number is, we'll go to 231 maybe. They would have a 231 bond, a 231 capital outlay, 231 general, and a 231 unified.
Because they have an active bond, but some districts may not.
Probably most of them all have.
Okay.
In Johnson County, they all have
In Johnson
it.
County, okay. Maybe not in Hayes or Salina or
There might be a smaller, smaller.
I know a district that doesn't have that.
That was a
What, Dodge?
little contentious neighbor
Oh.
vote.
Yeah, but everybody would have Johnson County Community College because that's the whole county. State of Kansas and Johnson County would show up,
And the only ones that we have any discretion over as a board are,
the first four.
but
Well,
the
not-
bond, we can't take that one off because it's been voter approved. And then it sounded like 512 school general is state required.
Yes,
So really only capital outlay and 512 unified are the only ones that we have any latitude over.
correct. Yep, that's correct. Let's see. So this is a snippet of the notice of hearing for the budget that was placed in the newspaper, and that was approved Monday night. So the total budget that we did approve was $611.9 million. The way they fund the school districts, they put all general state aid and special education state aid into the general fund, and then you got to transfer it out to the different funds. So 127 million of it is transfers, which is really kind of a double counting, so they have you back it out. So your true budget, total budget is $484 million. Assessed valuation, we're estimating to go up 6.2%, and the final meal levy that was an estimate was 51.316, so a slight increase. Okay. Mary mentioned that she kind of wanted to go over a deeper dive into the supplemental general fund, which is also known as the local option budget. So the LOB, history goes way back when they went to the school finance formula. And they started out, the percent that you could do was 25%. And so over time, by state law, the max that you can do for your LOB is 33%. And the state law also has a clause in there for state average. So whatever the state average is, a school district can choose that percent just by board approval. You don't have to have voter approval if you want to just do the state average. State average is now up to 32%. So it's getting pretty close that everybody will be at 33%. However, in 2015, it was a little bit lower than that. You had to take it to the voters. The voters approved that Shawnee Mission could go to 33%. So we've always have set a budget using the 33% max.
Can we just clarify for people that when we're talking about 33% of what?
Yeah.
You want to describe how that all works?
Yeah, it used to be pretty simple. It was just 33% of your general fund. But so I've showed you in the past that the general fund is the school finance formula. It's basically just the weighted FTE times the base amount, which is the state legislators control that, and you come up with the amount for us. It's about 100, close to $200 million, okay? So then LOB, now that they tweaked it over the years, you start with your FTE, your weighted FTE, which is 42,000 in this case. You back off special education, you
And
get
that's
30.
full-time enrollment FTE.
Full-time equivalent, yeah. So the weighted FTE, you start with your head count FTE, and then you add at-risk, which is based off free lunch. You add bilingual, which is contact minutes for ELL language, CTE, career tech ed, et cetera. So that's how you get that additional weighting and funding from the general state aid. The LOB base is different from the general fund base. It's a little bit higher, but it's also based off CPI, so that goes up 5.7%. So the LOB base is $5,452, and you just multiply that, and you get 199 million, and then this is a first for this year. Special education is 30.8. So you back off the SPED FTE, but then you get to add back in what you actually think your special education reimbursement cost will be. So what's a first is the law always allowed you to grandfather in your amount from fiscal year 2009, 15 years ago. So we've been using that, we've been using 26 million for 15 years. We finally are getting enough special education reimbursement that we exceeded what we were getting 15 years ago. So it took 15 years, but we're there. And one of the reasons is they added the additional $75 million towards the end of the legislative session, and we end up getting about 3.8 million of that amount. So now we're on the current special education reimbursement amount, what we anticipate, which is 30.8. You add the two numbers together, your LOB base is 230 million. And again, we're at 33%, so our LOB authority is 76 million. And so what that tells us is we can spend $76 million. We can't spend more than that. So we're capped at that spending. And then the way the mill levy works for the LOB is you start with 76 million. If you have a fund balance, in our case, it's roughly 5 million, and you subtract that off, and then it says, okay, you need to go get $71 million in revenue. And so it takes your assessed valuation, and then it just backs into the mill levy, and it generates $71 million in tax revenue. The state also has supplemental general state aid that is based off wealth of a school district, which is the assessed valuation. We do not qualify for that, so we do not get any state aid from the state. So it's all local taxes that funds your LOB. And so yes, we can control, we have a little discretion with our LOB mill levy, but if you're going to do 33%, because that's what the voters asked you to do, and it's all based off, and you run it through the school finance formula, you're going to max out at 76 million. The board does have the authority to do less than 76 million. So they could set it at 75, 74, 70, whatever they would want, and then we would calculate that mill levy, which would obviously be lower. But again, the LOB authority, we do the max at 33. School finance formula says, hey, you can spend 76 million. What mill levy do you need to generate that revenue? And so that's kind of the way that your local option budget works. And I'll pause there if anybody.
Just, I, again, want to put that emphasis on the fact that the revenue neutral rate is all about what mill rate you're needing to maintain neutral revenue. But the decision on local option budget is based on the decision that was voted on to maintain the 33% allowed by law. Therefore, the number of mills that are necessary to service that decision is a number you back into. It's not a choice of our school board. It is, the choice was made regarding the percentage, and the mill levies follow through the math.
And that's correct, 100% correct. And the budget documents that we get from the state just guide you right through that to determine what that mill rate is.
And I would say in a world where resources remain limited even as they have improved, it seems unwise to choose to back down from what is allowed. And that's my, I'm not asking you to respond, Dr. Knapp, or Mr. Knapp, I'm just expressing an opinion here.
That's correct.
Okay, so can I take a minute and just kind of talk to your neighbor maybe first? How about that? Let's do that. I want you to talk to your neighbor and say, all right, if we were to provide a explanation, at most a half a page on that, you know what I mean? Half a page explanation to our community about the statement they get that includes the bond, capital active generally, 502 by LOD. What pieces do we think we would want? And after you necessarily provide the answer, what would be useful? Does anybody want to share, volunteer to share with your maybe some thoughts that you want to putting all of the stuff?
Right. We talked about the fact that knowing what is required by state statute versus what is discretionary would be important, and what has gone to a vote of the district patrons would also be extremely helpful.
Angelique and I were talking about how it's, if the piece of mail is opened, once it is opened and read, that is exactly right. Which pieces we were talking about, which, you know, what the vote, which pieces were voted on, but also just, you know, as Russ did, graphics and pictures speak 1,000 words, so just the simpler the better. Just either, whether it's the example or the piece parts. I mean, you really have to break it into simplest terms, in our opinion.
And one other thing too is, you know, there's a lot of new home buyers coming in and first-time home buyers. Within that, do they actually know? Do they maybe not, they might not care because they're excited maybe about the home, but understanding that sometimes. I know when we moved in here, I didn't really think about that. I just knew I was moving into Shawnee Mission. But even things like the bond, in the parentheses, community vote or approval on this year. Because somebody may not know, oh, okay, you know, when did that happen? Is that something new or older coming in? If we're going to go into the next stage in our district, you know, so people understand like we're kind of either on a tail end or what's going to happen. And even I think for those, you know, that really now understanding, I mean, I will tell you honestly, 10 years ago, I never really opened it really. I was like, okay, great, you know, but now having come through these meetings and understanding a little bit more, sitting in different other council meetings, saying, okay, this is what it's for, but even at the bottom, so as we've mentioned before, it's like one big pot and everybody has a ladle. And some people don't realize that. And so like if we put it like 1, 2, 3, 4, unified, what does that mean? What is that paying for? Because some people do not know. What does capital outlay mean? What does that bond actually fund? You know, so it's like, so they actually understand this is what it's for, because again, one is for custodial. I know we always say, well, put that with the teacher. That's a totally separate group, you know, and I think that kind of helps people understand, you know, what can be touched, what can't be touched or moved around.
I would also add to that I think it's so important to link to the webpage, because Russ and your team, you have everything there anyone would want to know and then some. And so I think that if we give someone a half sheet of information, that we need to give them that link, because I say, don't just take my word for it, go out and look. because you can see that we're very transparent, and I think that's the strength of the district. So I think having that link would be, kind of to your point, Angela, very, very important.
Yeah, I don't think we said too much new. Then I started asking Russell some questions, but yeah, I think it's just, bond, have a little, one, and you say, as voted on in whatever, 2021. Yeah, put the date and when it matures, I guess. I don't know, mature is the right word. In the same way with the school general, mandated by the state. That's, and then whatever it is, right? And then, I think just those, because you're talking about keeping it to a half a page, and it has to be very, very precise. But then I do like, at some point, you link, for more information, go to, and then probably put the exact link so you're not, all right, not just smsd.org, but smsd.org/ but wherever exactly it is, right? Right, or even put, if you just go to smsd.org, okay, so which, do I go to the about, drop down, and I don't know, that could get a little wordy, but if you could do that
Or even a
concisely.
QR code.
What's that?
We could add the link and a tiny URL.
Yeah, and even, because a lot of times I'll just go out to smsd.org, and then it's like, all right, if I know how to find it.
The QR codes, I'll say, that's big.
QR code. So, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, we really liked the QR code idea, especially for further information. A half sheet is great, but that's not going to be enough to explain all of this. So if there was something easy that people could get to with a quick video or something along those lines, I think we might capture some of the audience that's not going to read and follow just a half sheet.
Maybe we get some student volunteers to help explain.
There you go.
Well, you kind of laugh.
An MVA.
I mean, I knew you were joking about it, but I think truthfully though, because you almost have to write it for a junior high or high school kid. Because, I mean, for the most part, I think all of us in the room would, probably have dug into stuff at times. The average person doesn't. But if you can make it, all right, what's a way, I know when I write things sometimes from a business perspective, then I'll have my wife read it, because I'm not, all right, make sure it's not my jargon, because if she can't understand it, then my client can't either. But I think you just write it for the audience of, maybe it is a high schooler because we've got the resources to do that.
They're right using plain language.
I would add too, one thing that I think is important for us to do is sometimes we talk about budgets as just like money and buildings, but like as much as we can tie this back to the experience of our students inside classrooms, that's what's actually going to motivate people to keep on
Yes.
saying yes.
Yes. Yeah. We don't have too much more to add to that, other than Russ does such a fantastic job of explaining all of this, and it's easy to follow along when he's speaking. He can probably do this in his sleep. I believe Dr. Schumacher said we're just going to send Russ door to door.
Agree with that.
Okay, everybody in agreement? All right, good.
That shouldn't take you too long.
Well, and I was going to add too, having had to do that for a number of years, that November, school-based starting point, that bottom-up piece, I think is an important element too, because it starts with those buildings saying, okay, this is what we need. It doesn't mean they get it, but it means it starts with, okay, I got this problem here with whether it's a student-based problem or a building-based problem, which I had lots of those too, in terms of leaks and cracks and all that stuff. So, yeah, I think that's an important element of this too, is it's built kind of from the bottom up.
I love that idea too, because of all the recent energy put into policy making around that building needs assessment. I feel like making sure front and center you are identifying that is driving this decision making will go a long way.
I was going to add something there too. Brian, you were doing this prior to there being statute for us to do that. And so, to your point, we were doing this in Shawnee Mission long before we had to do it. And so I think that's a testament to what we do here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's, as a parent going into different buildings and going to facilities, as we're ending one bond and looking to the future, and we're always going to have something, right? As a parent going into buildings, what always help is, with certain things that happen through the votes or bond, your community dollars did this. Because in the grand scheme of things, when you're walking into that school for your kid, that's very personal, and that's your kids and the kids that and their parents. And that speaks volumes, I think, in our district, because if there's one thing, having been involved in different districts, is that every single kid is one of our kids. And as a community person and involved, no matter what they are, those are still all of our babies, and the parents that see that say, okay, this is what that's for. Because when that vote does come, or we're getting ready, because before we did the last one, we did a lot of work, but having those signs, this is what it's going for, we're wanting to do this, putting that out there for those parents and people to see is huge, I think, when the time comes, because just like in election years, you hear so many things, and you don't even know who the person is, but you remember that name. So you remember, oh yeah, that's what that's for. That's what we did.
And this is probably not, kind of the half page, but at some point, somewhere, you almost have to sell why you're making things nice. Because some people, I know I'm kind of battling this with the library. Why build another library? Because they've got to go there, right? But, to kind of sell why it has to be nice. Like this building, for instance, very nice. And I know I've heard things were like, well, it's way too nice for a school. Type of thing. Or, but I'm guessing from facilities or finance, I don't know who would answer this, but, it doesn't take much more dollars to build a nice one versus a plain vanilla. The cost is the construction workers and things like that. And I don't think people realize, I think people are just like, well, you spent way too much money on that, when you could have built the same building for a lot less. And I don't think people kind of realize that it's very probably minor. I think.
I had a parent ask me that, I said, because our kids deserve the best. So we build the best, our students deserve the best building, the best places to learn.
But you have to sell the ones that are, not the ones that are already on board. They're the ones that, maybe they don't have kids, or they're just looking at, okay, how much does this cost? And I think I remember talking to Dr. Hubbard last year we were talking about Crestview and how she was surprised at how many more students moved in after they built a new one. And not that we're trying to steal kids, but, perception matters. Having a fresh building matters. Having, and just talking about somehow try to, I don't know, massage those words so you're not just trying to say some stuff. And just, why are we building a new, sometimes it's even, I think, why is the old building obsolete? I remember somebody questioning why we're building one. Well, because it's not made to wire that many electronics. And, and people can say, well, they shouldn't be spending time on electronics, but that's reality. We have to. But why is the old building obsolete? Why can't you just retrofit it? Why can't you just do, instead of spending, I don't know, how much is a new building? 20 million or 100 billion?
Well, it all depends on the size, but
Right, correct.
but yeah, you're looking at 30 to 35 million, it's all square footage.
Right, but why can't you just spend on $1 million to retrofit? And I understand that now, but I don't think a lot of people kind of grasp that. So when you're starting to say that, why do we have to spend 35 million? What if we could have spent one?
Yeah.
So maybe there's an opportunity.
No, go for it.
I was, thinking, there are some frequently asked questions, I think, that are on the website.
Right.
And that might be kind of an opportunity to fill those in. But even just thinking about, the square footage is a great way to talk about price. But I'd love if you walk through any of the buildings, every surface is used for instructional purposes.
Yeah.
So you think about the finish, which kind of some people I think see as the finish is nice. You think about, well, glass is more sustainable, and, these images on the wall provide instructional purposes, and these details, they're all, I love them, and they're great answers to those questions, which I think
Right, and I think, yeah, maybe that's where it is on the FAQ, but yeah, you just certainly just say, look, we're not just, we're not just, oh, we're going to build a new building because we think, we just love to spend money. It's, we're building a new building, and this is the reason why.
Yeah. I think we owe it to our constituents to give them that why, and some explanation of why this building and not another, and why this design and not this design. But I would always circle back to our strategic plan, where it says we will provide state-of-the-art facilities, learning facilities for all of our kids. And I think we all recognize the fact that quality schools, quality school buildings really enhance a community, and they're the main driver of people coming into a community. And so that's one of the things that was called out in our strategic plan too, is that we want to be a destination school community for the entire metro. And so having those state-of-the-art facilities is one of the big pieces to driving people into our community. Yeah.
In our communications work at the Children's Cabinet, we try and anchor things to those points in our strategic plan that are driving the decision-making. So I would encourage, because of the input and the process for this community to weigh in and help you develop the strategic plan, I think wherever possible, when you have those points to anchor things to, I would encourage that to be specifically called out in communications.
I think personally that sometimes, when we say we owe it to our kids and everything, coming from a contractor and construction point of view, it's one thing to stabilize or put a Band-Aid on a temporary fix, as opposed to, okay, we're going to start fresh. And I think sometimes if we do a link or whatever we do, I think what some people forget is, okay, well, I think a couple of years we did bathrooms. Okay, well, why are they focusing on bathrooms and not focusing on this? Well, one, there was laws that changed and all these things that had to happen and everything, that we had to do. But I think even doing assessments of, we do all of these temporary fixes over 5 years on this building, let's just say West, as opposed to doing all of this now and making it new instead of doing this, then that, then this, then that. It comes kind of, okay, you know what, let's just get it done. That's like painting, we're just going to paint one side of the house because we're going to just paint the front, so then that looks nice. But we're not going to do anything in the back or sides. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes people forget about that, and they just see the one side of it instead of seeing, okay, well, this is the whole house. And when we have something like that and letting them know this is how much it would cost year after year to maintain it, as opposed to, like Pawnee, year after year to do all of this stuff for Pawnee, as opposed to, okay, in 10 years, as opposed to a new building that's going to last 20. And that can say something to a lot of people in our community.
And kids get a sense of pride when they go into a new building versus an old building. And it's just like everything. You're excited about the school, you take pride in it. You don't want to go to a crappy old place. People don't, right?
And teachers want to go to that school.
And teachers want to go to it, right. It's all that stuff. And, not that we don't build a new building every 5 years, but there's a, there's a trade-off. There's a fine line on when you decide to do it or not do it, but, you just have to.
I think one thing we've gotten really good at doing is inviting the community in. My kids are at Trailwood, and it got rebuilt 6 years ago, and I remember there was a big say farewell to the building, and they opened it up to the neighborhood, and a lot of people came in and were like, well, when my kids went here, the basement didn't flood, and they'd come down, and I think it gave people a really clear sense of like, oh, this building was done. And then we've invited people back in.
How old is Tomahawk?
70 years.
It's done too, huh?
70-year-old building.
Then we came back in for, once the new building was done, and I think people walked around, it was open to the neighborhood, and there was a lot of like, oh yeah, this is worth it. I think we can send as many links and write as many numbers and write as much narrative, but just opening those buildings up for people to see goes a long way.
Yeah, we could say that about all of our rebuilds, right? Pawnee, Rushton, Tomahawk. The old compared to the new is just, there's no comparison.
Shad, did you have something you wanted to add? I didn't mean to cut you off. Okay. So let me recap at least some of the things I've captured here. Okay, so I'm going to kind of start backwards. So linking to the strategic plan, right? And the focus of that budgets may be about money and buildings, but it's really about the students inside the classroom and kind of drawing those links to that. Selling why we're making these things nicer. So David, kind of this conversation that you led of what's the why behind that? Why are we spending this money? What is the square footage price compared to other things? And kind of really bringing that to life. Leading from the November kind of starting point in the buildings needs assessment and kind of carrying that story through that it's linked to meeting the needs of our students and staff. Using kind of plain language so that we're communicating to a broader audience, as well as pictures, I think was, anytime we can add visuals is always helpful. General, so then in hitting maybe a brief explanation about the 4 key points that might be the bond, capital outlay general, the unified supplemental, and maybe even some of the other pieces like special liability, if that shows up, what that's for. But just starting off with this general fund is mandated by the state. It's used to pay for day-to-day expenditures, but, general operating budget. If we're talking about the supplemental LOB, again, that this is voter approved. It's used to increase the general operating budget, but then also add the historical piece so that it's really important, especially for like those new home buying. What is this even mean to me as a new home owner? But just providing that history so that we can say the district has always supported the local operating budget to its maximum capacity, or we've always had an active bond to keep up with our, 55 facilities, so that historical piece is there as well. Linked to the specific district websites, maximizing the use of maybe QR codes, because most of this information is provided in deeper explanation on the website. Again, recognizing that everyone might not open their mail or have these questions, but if the 10% who are super curious want to know, we're providing an explanation and they can be influencers in their community and circle to help share that information. Again, I think we talked about knowing whether it's required by state law, whether it's been approved by voters, and to what extent it's discretionary, including an explanation of revenue neutral rate. So let's help understand and unpack what that means. And if we can do that in context of some of these specific property tax items, that would be important. And then one of my favorite stats is that after we've gone all through this, Shawnee Mission still has the lowest mill levy for schools in the Johnson County area. So hitting that kind of contextual piece as well. Did I miss anything? And we also will have an opportunity to maybe review. So I'll take the lead in doing maybe a first draft, and we can work it internally and bring it back to the committee as time allows. Is that good?
Dr. Sinclair, one thing, I would
Yes.
try to use examples when possible.
Use examples, I like that.
Especially when it comes to capital outlay and those types, and we're certainly over half a page, but people don't.
I know, right? It took me a half a page just for those notes.
Right?
I'm sorry, Angela, I didn't interrupt.
No, you're fine. People don't know what that is. And so just to even explain, they need examples. They need to know very simply, this is what that's used for. So, you said make it for middle school or high school, I think third grade, because it's a lot for people to understand and you'll lose them quickly.
That's a great point, Angela. I imagine like buckets, right? And under each bucket, like maybe a few examples of what can be out of, right? I think that's a great visual for that.
I think Schoolhouse Rock, just do, right? In all seriousness, I think you have to have multimedia, not paper or not, a web view. I feel like there really does need to be different ways. Jokingly about Russ going out door to door, but seriously, there does need to be a bit of a road show. Again, because 5% may read the piece of paper, but maybe another 5 or 10 might see it differently with a QR code or TikTok or whatever.
And I would think, I know this gets probably explained, you probably think you've explained it more times than what people have heard, but I think the thing I was surprised to hear one time was how little flexibility you had. Like, everybody just thinks, all right, you're building all these new buildings, and why are you complaining about teacher salaries? Why don't we spend less money on these brand-new buildings? Why are we spending so much when you're complaining about the salaries? And I know you've said it, and I understand it now, but that was the one thing I was surprised to hear, and it wasn't that long ago that I heard that. And I think you almost have to just keep reminding people of that, because that's what people think. That's what people don't understand, is that, yes, we would love to maybe Tyler wouldn't, but, take some of that money and give to salaries. But you just can't, right? I mean, I just don't think, you can't tell that story, I think.
Okay. This has been a great conversation. We might have to push some of the other agenda items. We do have a little bit more time. Are we good to stay till 5:30 and maybe, yeah,
Schedule
right,
for
we're good,
5:30.
okay?
Yeah.
So do you have any preference on where we maybe focus the rest of the conversation?
I think it's up to you guys.
Yeah, I think we can wrap up the finance part of this. Russ has taken over an hour of our hour and a half, so.
Come on, Russ.
You can go start knocking doors now, Russ. We expect you to hit 100 days.
I think we should go ahead and see if we can tie together the facilities part to the finance.
That'd be great.
Everybody good with that? Perfect, okay. Let's move to bond update. All right, I will get us kicked off here. So, first of all, I have a lot more notes than Russ does. Russ could do that thing in his sleep, so bear with me here. So passing a school bond is essential for creating a thriving educational environment where students can excel. What you will see here in the next few slides is tangible evidence of the positive impact bonds have had in the Shawnee Mission School District. When our community supports a school bond, it directly invests in the future of our children, ensuring that they have access to safe, modern facilities that foster learning and growth. Educators are profoundly grateful for this commitment, as it empowers us to provide the best possible education for our kids. The positive impact on student achievement is significant, as improved resources and infrastructure create a healthy, vibrant school community where every student has the opportunity to succeed. And for this, we continue to be appreciative and thankful for our Shawnee Mission School District patrons. Right now, we are going to, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Clubb for just our bond update and where we are with our projects and our timelines.
Thank you. So just a reminder, I see this daily. We roll through this daily. So if I glass over something quickly, don't hesitate, holler at me. We'll stop, we'll circle back, and I'll explain it the best I can. But I like to show this. So this is the opening slide always. This is our Gantt chart. And this showed the breakdown of each project, each feeder, the big items, and then, with our blue on there in our grass, right? Then you got the cycle 5-year projects. And so one big thing to notice on this meeting is there's no more design, there's no more bidding, and there's no more new construction on the large projects. And so you can, don't let it fool you, right? I mean, we still have phase 5 of the cycle projects, and we'll go through there and itemize it, hit our needs, and still tackle on this 5th year of the bond. But yeah, so new builds are done, they're under construction or finished. Same thing with our remodels at the high schools and middle schools. So they're either done, or that project's completed, or it's still in progress. But same as the furniture. And so all feeder patterns at the secondary level have been completed at this point. I'm going to apologize now, but this one will be picture heavy. We've got to show this building off. It's turned out beautiful, and this will be the only one. Well, what I tried to do was, I was strategic about this, but these were our renderings that we had forever. And we had the original rendering of the front of the building and this staircase, if we remember back. But here it is completed. This Russian was built, was designed, architects was Insight, and J.E. Dunn was the CM on the project, but it completed about 72,000 square feet, and we started the school year opening Russian.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone was able to show up to that first day and see those faces of those kids and those families that were coming through there. It was priceless. There was the excitement and the enthusiasm that those kids were walking into that building. You could feel it. It was pretty cool.
And quickly, I mean, left to right, that's the front entry, and the main office is to the left side of that picture. It's the front doors, secure front entry there, looking right outside the front of the building. Middle picture, that's our FEMA shelter. That's that elementary gymnasium, home of the red-tailed hawks. And then on the right, that's our media center. That's one half of it. And then if you notice the storefront glass on the next slide, we'll be able to see that from the other view. But and here we go. There's our collaboration space in the hallways, right? And where do we have that in a 50-year-old elementary building? No, it's half that size. But this picture clearly shows the flexible seating furniture that we can do with the wider hallway. And then standard classroom. There's that seating. There's the furniture, should I say, with that flexible seating options in the classrooms, along with all the new technology wall, the whiteboards, and all the daylight, the large windows. And then on the right-hand side, it's overlooking. You're on the second floor portion of that building, looking at the courtyard going across, and there in the middle is the outdoor classroom and the library/media center, looking at that space. And now, unfortunately, I got to go back to renderings. So here's the rendering of Tomahawk, and our last of the 5 new builds. But a reminder: this is a DLR architect project, and J.E. Dunn is also the construction manager on this. With programmings, with size, but Tomahawk versus Russian, that's why this building's almost 80,000 square feet, just the sheer number of students and the programs in it. But yeah, so the countdown, this is 11 months from now, right? We're going to be opening Tomahawk with that schedule, that construction timeline.
Let's not forget as well that we also did a boundary change, and we are going to be accepting some students from Briarwood Elementary into the Tomahawk community. So we had to redraw our boundary a little bit to provide Briarwood some much-needed relief from their school building.
Then up-to-date pictures. And so strategically, again, I wanted to show and try to help. Weekly, I give updates to Dr. Stubblefield, and sometimes I feel maybe I'm speaking 30,000 feet, but there are a lot of details along the way, and this shows it really good. But like the site grading's completed. You can clearly tell where that front retaining wall is going to be incorporated with the playground on this design at Tomahawk. But you can see the structural steel in place on that top one, and it's done. All that slab on the concrete. And so when I talk about it, when we roll through these pictures, will help identify those items. But the structural steel in your top picture, right? And then we move down, and so you can see where the metal stud framing on the exterior walls, right? And then that yellow, that's all the sheathing going up on the building. And then on that middle picture, you can see that sheathing, but yet, what is that on the other side? Well, that's the air barrier, that's the weather protection application that's already completed on that side. So next up is windows and bricks. And so it's just, you can see the stages in these pictures as we move on. And then slab on grade, well, that's your concrete on that main floor on that right side, where we're standing taking this picture. Then your slab on deck, and that's up above you. That's that concrete on the second floor that's been poured with your metal panels, and you can see the curvature of this structural steel as well. So it's just the progress, and when we talk about it, you can see these items with these pictures at Tomahawk, where we're at currently on the construction phase.
I love when go to the website, because you have the snapshot. So I'm even looking at the FEMA gym install, this huge giant, door wall.
Yep. So you've heard my explanation of it, but we just received this Q3 video from Jay Dunn, and wanted to add, so here's the district's perspective, but then again here, watch this, we got like a 1-minute video that tell you what it's like right now with Jay Dunn.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Shawnee Mission School District, Tomahawk Elementary. You can see behind me, we've made a lot of great progress out here, but the project really started back in January of this year when we demolished the original Tomahawk Elementary, which took about 4 to 5 weeks. And then following that, we had an awesome groundbreaking ceremony with the administrative staff, the students, and the community out here. This is going to be about an 82,000 square foot building when it's all said and done.
Right now, we're walking through the front entry of the building. To my right will be the admin space, which incorporates your principal's office and all other school faculty with a break room. Leading right in through here, you can see our elevator pit through there. That will be a very cool structure and the main design feature of the building. It'll actually be shaped like a tree, so we're excited to show you that in the near future.
So here we are, we've completed structure as far as concrete slab on grade. All building concrete is complete. Structural steel is nearly complete. As you can see in the background, we have a few little pieces left, about 2 weeks worth of work and we'll be done. We have poured the second floor deck and are scheduled to pour half of the second floor deck. We are going to pour the other half sometime next week. Over my right shoulder, we have completed also the gymnasium, which also is a FEMA shelter.
As you can see behind me, we've started the exterior skin portion of this project. There's a whole lot that goes into this. So what you can see behind me, we've started with the metal stud framing of this. So you can see the window openings and the blockouts through here. Next, we'll move into a phase where we put on our sheathing and then an air barrier that keeps the building weather tight. After that process is all completed, we'll start putting on the exterior face, which includes all of your brick, metal wall panels, and all the various finishes that are on this project. After that, it'll be a big push to put roofing on so we can get dried in by the time winter hits.
Right now I'm standing on our second floor that we have installed. To my left here, you can see this is going to be the cafeteria and the kitchen further down. And to the right, this is going to be our courtyard and playground space for the kids.
Tomahawk is the last project of the 2021 bond project. We've been extremely proud to be a part of the entire process, and this is going to be an excellent space for the kids. We can't wait to turn it over in August of 2025.
Yeah, also just if you notice, the playground is actually going to be in the front of that building, which is going to look really cool. It'd be different from our other builds.
Yeah, each one's different, and they have their own personality. Yep. All right, so we're gonna move on now. We're to the remodel portion of where we're at. We've got a high school and middle school still under construction, but Shawnee Mission West, again, Insight is the architects. Newkirk Novak is the CM on this project, but that is the, 4,300 square foot weight room addition. And so with that, a big breath, and I'll try to explain without confusing myself even more, but you have weight room moving to the wrestling room addition. It's going to be incorporated into the new weight room, and a lot of shuffling of the spaces and remodeling internally. But all that work, along with the restroom renovations, that was completed over the course of the summer. But this addition and the steel, that work, it's going to take it until the start of, our goal is the start of second semester, this being completed and ready to use. You can see right now the structural steel is going up. They've tied into the old building there. And then the middle picture, that was, I wish it was larger, but on the far end, the very back portion of that, there's a plywood wall. That plywood wall is going to be open to this 4,300 square foot addition with all that daylight storefront tied in. So this is part of it. This is one phase. But that used to be the wrestling room. It is now the weight room. And then on the right is what used to be the weight room, still construction underway to turn that back into the wrestling room, which is on schedule, and that's going to be completed for the start of wrestling season. So they'll be able to start that season in this new space. Much bigger, yep. Indian Hills, we're doing a little addition there, 1,600 square feet. That's Hollis and Miller. That is J.E. Dunn on the construction side. But it's a large classroom, so look for a space that they've never had. That opportunity to have 80 staff members in one location, other than your cafeteria or gym, right? And so with that, with the seating, how you can be flexible with it, there's still breakout areas included in this. Underneath the mezzanine and underneath the stairs, there's still opportunities for one-on-one learning. So in the final rendering, you can see how the original hallway, that was all brick or stucco, right? But with this, that's been removed, but there's an air barrier wall up currently on our next slide. It's ready for the addition to be done, and that wall, that air barrier wall comes out and it blends in with that addition. So that'll be storefront, there'll be some railings, but you can see where they're at now. And this also has the metal framing done. They're starting with the roof and the sheathing on the walls right now, and their goal is to have this completed as well by the start of second semester.
Is that unique to that large classroom? Is that a unique to?
East did something.
East
did
Yes,
something, yeah.
East is, it's unique, it's wanted. I mean, it's a big request at all buildings, I think, on the elementary level all the way to secondary. I mean, it's having that large
Woods has
space.
something similar to
Woods, well, no, I
it's
mean,
more-
it was,
it was
they
more
had
separated, yeah.
It's more separated. They have the smaller ones in between each one of those classrooms. But, I mean, but back to the point, yeah, East had that
It's
large
definitely a
classroom
newer
addition.
idea to have that bigger, it's definitely a newer idea to have that bigger flexible space for teachers to utilize differently.
Yeah, so we just went through the new builds and the remodels. Back to that 5-year cycle, those summer projects that we start. And so yearly, and this is the end of the furniture cycle at the secondary level. And so we completed each feeder pattern, high school, middle school. To wrap it up this year, it was South and Indian Hills. And so this is, I think, the two pictures on the one on the left and on the right, that's actual classroom space at Shawnee Mission South right now. And then I got a nice little picture from Indian Hills there in the cafeteria with new furniture there. HVAC upgrades, we went, it was like $6.9 million of renovation, major renovation this summer on new HVAC equipment. So with that, what did that do right here? North, northwest, west, complete overhaul at Brook Ridge. Prairie had a lot of work done this summer as well, in Mill Creek, but we were able to touch a lot of locations and get a lot of new equipment in there. Roofing, again, it's building's as good as it can be if it stays dry, right? And it's just one of those things that you got to tackle and stay on top of. We've got a really good an assessment program that keeps up, monitors our roofing warranties and keeps us up to date when they were installed, and it helps us decipher one on age and warranty to back to our work order system and monitor the two together with where we're having active nuisance leaks, repetitive leaks, and tie it into the age of the roof, and helps us dictate which ones we're going to tackle for that summer. And then asphalt improvements, yearly, and just going through in our 5-year cycle and resurface if it needs a mill and overlay, if a seal coat can do it, or like this picture here, we did a little project at going to Belinda, and we had a dire need of getting the parents off of the neighborhood streets. But we couldn't unless we widened this one drive, and it allowed us to pull that whole group now back all the way behind Belinda into the playground and change the flow of traffic and give the buses their own and the pickup and drop off in a separate location, and this worked out great. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to, I just was thinking, so 20 years ago, Highlands was rebuilt, and one of the things, so as part of that parent community, we were, I know 20 years, right? And so one of the things we were asking for was LEED certification, you know, what, to what extent can we do that? Which we kind of, right, we tested that out, and we're looking at, the, you know, the LEED certified from the 5 buildings built prior to that. But one of the questions that came up, and this was, again, 20 years ago, what is the, there was at that time, not a lot of maybe comparability between the HVAC systems, what you're using for roofing, and what was in all of the buildings. And so from a maintenance perspective, it probably is not really realistic to have different systems. We use, I don't know if I'm recapturing correctly what one of the concerns was in the past, but is there much difference between the HVAC systems that are in our LEED certified buildings, or what we're putting on in terms of roofing materials, in terms of kind of the maintenance component of it? Are those now more similar?
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I could talk hours on it. Where I'm struggling is to keep it brief, but
Yes and no?
yes and no, right? But when the more technology, the smarter the equipment is, the more things it can do, the more things it can monitor.
The efficiency is, goes
To
up.
do that, the efficiency goes up, right? But each year, or each, you know, if you want to just say LEED certified, LEED silver, LEED gold, platinum, they all have landmarks you got to hit to do that. So, yeah.
I was thinking more, let me clarify my question. I'm just thinking, we have LEED regardless of what level of LEED. We also have 5 elementary builds from our last bond
Yes.
that probably met a lot of LEED code but weren't LEED certified. I'm just curious about, is the building code such today that they're all very similar in terms of maintenance? I know that there are additions. I'm not trying to be dismissive of what LEED adds. Are the two compatible, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, so I'm going to group the 11. So in the last 2 bonds, 11 new elementaries. So those 11 are very compatible. There might be a manufacturer that's changed for equipment, but the same premise is still there.
Okay.
With roofing, with lighting, with flooring, and HVAC as well.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's helpful.
We know we're rebuilding, we're in process on Tomahawk, so this question is, aside from that, which is not yet complete, what would be the oldest elementary school we now have?
Give me 5 minutes and I'll show you on a slide.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Just quickly, there's some things on some athletic upgrades we're doing. We had the 3 and 2 complex. We're going through on fields 1, 2, and 7, I believe. Those are the field numbers, but we're turfing the infields on those at our.
1, 2, and 7.
Yep, 1, 2, and 7, right? 1, 2.
1, 2, and 7.
Yep. So that's a turf, and that's starting. They're going to show up on site Tuesday after Labor Day. So that's right around the corner. That work's going to start.
I know a lot of baseball parents that are ecstatic about that happening.
Good.
That's what we like to hear.
Yes, right. And we're due for Shawnee Mission North and South at both stadiums. Those we had an issue at South that on the track, yeah, or the bank, which one? But yes. Anyway, it's underway, and I would love to get you. And that's the brand new surface. It's done except to be striped, and it'll be both stadiums will be striped by the end of next week and ready to use. Playgrounds, and so this was also wrapped up the playground portion of our bond, and right now we can sit back and say at each one of our elementaries where there is a playground spot that's fully inclusive for all. So
I think, real quick, whenever we talk about inclusive playgrounds, we have to mention Olivia Bloomfield and her vigilance and her determination and her foresight to bring that to Shawnee Mission. And again, all credit to her, and just brings a smile to your face to have a student like that in the district.
Yeah, that was, I think the first one we did was 6 years ago at Corinth.
Corinth, yeah.
And here we are, 34 elementaries later.
All right. So as we're sunsetting our current bond, we need to turn our attention to looking at, capital dollars and, what we need to utilize those dollars for. So right here, we are doing some elementary furniture cycles where we're going to create a cycle for the elementaries that are not new or rebuilds. We'll also have some flooring cycles, and then we'll also do some facade work on some of our buildings, such as what you see up here with Shawnee Mission South. All right, we've got an action team update. So we were Strategy 6 facilities. I had the pleasure of serving on the facilities action team along with Mr. Clubb, Mr. Knapp sitting next to me, and the recently retired and legendary Dr. Gilhouse. This action team was facilitated by Sherry Dummeline, who is our Chief of Special Ed, along with Brandon Claypool, who is Assistant Principal at Indian Woods Middle School. Strategy 6 of our district strategic plan is centered on the strategic allocation of resources to ensure our facilities are state-of-the-art, aligning with our core beliefs, mission, and objectives. These facilities will build community connections through sustainable, state-of-the-art educational environments and facilities that serve as hubs for collaboration, engagement, and shared experiences. A significant part of the facilities action team actually focused on the necessity of a bond referendum to ensure that facility needs of the district are met as noted in action plan number 1 on the screen. Also, action plan 2 has an emphasis on continued scheduled maintenance and being good stewards of resources and dollars. So those were the conversations that were had in the Strategy 6 facilities action team. The next slide actually shows the Gantt chart for Strategy 6. Most notable on this chart is that the majority of the scheduled implementation in green begins in the 25-26 school year. However, there are a few in progress noted in yellow that will begin the first quarter of our current school year, which Tyler and his team and myself have been engaged in since the beginning of the school year. Please note that Strategy 6 will be included in all of our quarterly updates of the strategic plan during board meetings. That will be facilitated by Dr. Neal.
I shorted you all time in my presentation here, and so a couple of the, did you have one more slide?
There's one more which would answer a question.
Maybe some questions. Yeah, so and we talked, there's, that word assessments came up a lot, right? And back in 2016, we did an assessment of the 11 oldest buildings. And so the rubric here, is each one, the structure, the plant maintenance, building safety, environment for education, all that. So I think in a perfect score, what this is, I haven't counted it, but it's, say it's 1,000, right, or 900. If we roll through there quickly and try to count what that should be, but everything's totaled. And so on the website, there's a spot where it does get these assessments out building by building, and all this slide is showing is grouped all the information together in one spreadsheet and make it as quick as possible to read through there.
But I still want some clarity. So in this current bond cycle, are these all rebuilds, or I see some that are not,
Yeah, only
right?
5 of those
So
on this
if
list
we-
of 11 is a rebuild. So
I'm
there's
still wanting to see
still
what's
6.
left as that cohort of buildings that is yet to be rebuilt. So I see Belinda.
Yeah, Belinda, yeah, so Belinda, Santa Fe, Rose Hill, East Antioch.
And Brook Ridge.
And Brook Ridge would be next.
Belinda being the oldest in 1952.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and clarify too, guys, so when we do HVAC work at a building, and we do roof work at a building, on one of these aging buildings, the score could change.
Right.
Right, so.
Yes.
all of that will be taken into account
And,
as well.
and it's gonna, and honestly, I mean, you're gonna have to reassess the remaining ones. What works took place from 2016 to 2024?
Yeah.
And where does it relay on that rubric? And, you know, you don't want to just walk away from a building and not do maintenance on it just because potentially you have this wish list and, you know, so you still got to maintain them. And again, if you reassess it and get that data, you can find that out.
Those 5 buildings, though, still aren't,
5 or 6.
what,
So there is 6 on here, but only 5 elementaries because that Schmisk building is actually the Catherine Carpenter building that's where the early childhood building was and is relocated to Broadmoor, so it's currently that building's vacant.
Used as storage.
Yes.
so I guess what I'm getting at is those buildings that I trust we're maintaining things, they still don't have collaboration space and the high, you know, like the things that we're doing to improve technology and efficiency and all of the upgrades that our new builds are getting, these buildings still don't benefit. We're making it work and we're keeping it maintained and clean and nice, but they don't have the same benefits that our new builds have, right?
They do not. We do try to do some things with furniture upgrades, but to the extent that the new builds have, no.
Yeah, so I'm not disparaging what is done to keep them in operation and keep them nice, but there are advantages that include cost savings from more efficient use of utilities because of building materials and all of those features.
100%.
The technology updates and the use of space. We're currently renovating a house because we want to use square footage differently now that we're empty nesters than we did when we had kids growing up in the house. So, I mean, there are reasons why the approach to education has changed and the functionality of the buildings need to come along. For kids in those buildings, I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is there is reason to begin thinking about the next bond.
100%, yeah. And I think what these guys are trying to fall short of is signaling to our community that maybe looking at this and saying, okay, we're next on the list, right? Because there's going to be a lot of factors that come into play, but there's very clearly a need to attend to these buildings, 100%.
Melissa, I think that the last 2 columns are what you're talking about. So those environment and education ones, are clearly out of date in the old schools. I mean, I was in one, so it was, you just had to figure it out, and we had rooms in the basement for some of our special ed break rooms and sensory rooms. We had to just figure it out, and the best part about getting that new bit, watching that video, was knowing that west side that's a river when it rains has been fixed, because that was awful. And yeah, I mean, literally, it was a river every time it rained. So yeah, but the environment for the education is out of date, but no other way to say it.
Yeah, Melissa, what you were talking about was clearly articulated through our Strategy 6 Facilities Action Team that, we need a bond to do the rest of this work.
Premature to get an idea of the life cycle for that process?
For the bond?
Premature.
Okay.
Well, the Gantt chart does state that, okay, it did. Okay, never mind.
One thing is, when the first one happened, the bond that we're currently in happened, we went through, there was an assessment, we went through, okay, this is the one that needed the most. And of course, within the 5 years, so many people have come, so many people have moved, so many things have happened, that I think having, okay, you guys, this is the schools that we did, because people that are new do not know what's been going on. If they just moved into a blender, if that's the next one, they have no idea what probably some of the other schools are if they were just looking in certain areas. So they really have no knowledge of what they're missing and what they're not missing. But I think when that time comes to approach, our community about, okay, this is what we're looking at, I think sometimes pictures do work in this instance. This is the classroom at this school now. This is what it could be.
I have a rosal picture of a plant growing inside, and then the teacher brought a pot and put the plant in the pot. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think those works and coming up, so then we see that, we know there's things to be done. Of course, some things, technology, again, we're doing what we can, but I think knowing, hey, there's a little bit more opportunity with approvals, with this, because even Rushton today, in 15 years, there's going to be, of course, things, because everything just changes. So, yeah.
I would note on this too, because I'm remembering in 2021, when we did that bond, there was a lot of like, what about this school? What about that school? But have you seen the basement in this? Like, unsurprisingly, every school community thinks their school is the one that needs to be rebuilt, right? These assessments were done by an independent third party, right? This is like an outside architecture group that
Yeah,
came
we
in?
had two architects and some civil engineers pair up, and they assessed these buildings.
So it's not subjective, like, hey, school community, how adequate is your building?
Right,
We have
absolutely.
sort of an outside third party that helps
That's a
us
great
make-
point to make.
External evaluators. Okay, we've gone over, so thank you. Two things to, thank you all for your time in Northwood. Just for myself. I think for next, I'll be looking for also the dates for 2025, so we'll keep it on the Thursday at 4 o'clock for an hour and a half. And then, so our next meeting is November, but we'll try to get the 2025 dates going. And that will put bond first, next meeting. All right, thank you, everybody. Very sweet.